Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to be making a LEGO space themed figurine display case. So I'm starting off here with the classic 1980s, I think, space LEGO logo. It takes me back to my youth. And what I'm going to be doing, actually, I've started with this because I think it's a cool logo. But what I'm actually going to be making is this. Okay, so here's my little figurine inside this beautiful clear acrylic case with a walnut veneered base. So really beautiful. It's all going to be laser cut. We've got a finger joint box here. The Lego figure itself is standing on a little Lego brick, which is embedded in this walnut base. So that's what we're working towards. So let's have a see how all of this is coming together. So here I'm in Fusion 360. And I've created a 3D model of the design here. What I should do for this is have an animation with it all pulling apart, but I haven't had time to do that. So I'm just going to pull it apart the old-fashioned way. Basically, I'm going to dismantle the components. So we're starting here with a base. There it is, which is in walnut. As I say, it's going to be a walnut veneer, basically a veneer onto an MDF a 3mm section of wood. And then on that, we're going to add a second piece of MDF, of veneered MDF with a walnut veneer. And this is going to have a little cutout in the middle here. Hopefully you can see that cutout, because what I want in the middle here is a Lego brick. So there's my Lego brick, which is then going to be sitting inside this walnut veneer kind of pedestal platform, this step. And then we've made it so that the upper platform here is just the right size, so that when I add my acrylic clear display cover, everything's going to snap together. And if I just bring back in here the camera again, that actually is quite solid on there. I can remove it. It is a friction fit, so I can take it off. I can remove my Lego figurine here. There's the Lego brick underneath. Pop him back on, perhaps let him do a little bit of a different gesture there. There he is. Now it's like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And then let's just pop the lid back on there, and it should just snap into place. There we are. And that is now fixed. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to be doing this again from scratch. I'm going to be using Techsoft 2D Design, and I'm going to be incorporating into the back window here, sort of behind the figurine, I'm going to be adding in this Lego space logo. Okay, so let's have a see how this is going to work. I've actually got in here, if I come to window and I come to my previous CAD file, this is all my working out in the CAD file. What I've got over here are the details for MakerCase, which I'm going to be going to in a second. And then here I've got the export from MakerCase, and I've indicated on there again that the dimensions I've got in MakerCase, 45, 55, and 40. Match here to the height of the acrylic display case, the width at the front, and the depth from front to back. And then here I've got my corresponding dimensions for my walnut pedestal base. So this is the larger piece of walnut. I've got a faint red engraving here that has allowed me to make sure that when I stuck this kind of pedestal platform onto the base, it was positioned perfectly in the middle. And then I've also got here the little stepped upper section with the cutout here for the Lego brick. Okay, and then here I've got the data that I got off the internet for how big the brick should be. Okay, so let's have a little think here about what we need to do. First thing is I'm going to go on to MakerCase. So here we are in makercase.com, and it's going to be a basic box. I want to change the measurements here to millimeters, and I need to make sure that I get these dimensions to the right size. So let's just remind ourselves what this needs to be. It has a width of 45 millimeters. In fact, no, I'll keep it as it is. Let's have a see. Yep, that's going to be, let's zoom out here. That's the width, yeah, of the display case. At the front, then we're going to have a height of 55 and then a depth to this display case of 40 millimeters here. So it's going to be 45, 55, 40. Okay, so let's just put this in. 45, 55, 40. The acrylic is 3 millimeters in thickness. It's going to be an open box. At the moment, you can see that that is a closed box. I want to have it open. Now, of course, this is going to open the top of the box, but actually, if I think about this, the whole box wants to be the other way around. So this actually is going to be the bottom. This is where it snaps onto the pedestal, and this is going to be the top. But Make a Case actually stops me from spinning that all the way around. But as long as you're aware of that, that's what matters. Let's keep coming down here. I want to make sure this is a finger joint, and by default here, Make a Case has given me this kind of finger joint arrangement, which I think is quite nice. Now I can make these finger joints different sizes, but coming back to my display case here, I think that these quite chunky finger joints work rather well. So I'm going to stick with that plan. Let's see, where are we? We want to just bring the camera away. So let's bring my finger joint size up again there. I'm going to go back to about 18. That looks about nice there. I like that a lot. Okay, now I'm going to download those box plans, and I need to download those as a DXF file. Okay, and that's now just saved onto my downloads folder. So you can see I do this a lot, and this is now my 16th download of a DXF file from Make a Case. Okay, so let's now come back into Techsoft, and I want to go now to my new blank page here. Notice I've already right-clicked on grid lock, and I've already got it. So I've got 5 mil X and Y grid spacing. I still have step at 1 millimeter, gives me that level of control. I've got my grid set as pale blue lines. I just like that layout a lot. Okay, let's come to file here. I'm going to import that file. I'm not going to open. This is not a Techsoft CAD file. This is a DXF file. It's an Autodesk file. I need to import it. I'm going to go to downloads, and we're going to find that box 16. There it is, and I'm going to open that. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I set these units here to millimeters, otherwise it's going to look massive. And notice as well, I've also got grid lock turned on. So when I drop this in, notice at the bottom left-hand corner, he says it should snap onto the grid, and that was a complete fail. It has not snapped onto the grid. So what I'm actually going to do now is go into step lock, which, if you remember, is my millimeter by millimeter control, and I'm just going to zoom in here and just make sure that that bottom left is snapping onto the grid. This at the moment is all grouped together. Let's Control U to ungroup, and now you'll notice that if I select things, that everything is like, individually kind of grabbed like this. What I really want to do now is select each of these frames and then group that together. And now, because I've got step lock turned on, what I can now do if I want to is I can just snap this onto the grid in the bottom left hand corner here. Okay, now you don't have to do this, but it does mean that I've just got a little bit more kind of granular control over all of the parts of this CAD file. Control G again there, and it means that I can then obviously manipulate these with a little bit more control. Group that, and then again, let's just bring that onto the grid like so. Also notice too that because in Make a Case I had it so that all my dimensions were, let's just bring Make a Case back in again here, all my dimensions were factors of 5, 45, 55, and 40. It means now if I look on my grid, I can see that it's snapping to the grid bottom left and to the top right as well. That's because if I get my dimension lines here, now I can go into grid lock, and you'll notice that I can just simply snap this in. That is going to be 55. That is going to be 45. And here, okay, actually, this distance here is actually showing me the size of that box. I'm actually going to show you something a little bit different here. I'm actually going to turn grid lock off. I'm going to turn the attach tool, and look, now I can actually snap onto that corner. I can snap onto that corner and then turn grid lock back on again and bring that up. And now the dimension lines pass all the way down to the width of the box there. It's not, the width of the box obviously is not this measurement here, but here's a good question. What width should this be? And before I click, I'm going to give you a second or two here just to work it out. And hopefully you've worked out here that this should be 34, because the material thickness was 3, and I've got material on the left for this left finger joint, material on the right for the right finger joint, so that's 3 plus 3 is 6. 40 minus 6 is 34. Okay, so hopefully that is what you got too. Okay, so that is good to go. I don't think I necessarily need that dimension line, and I've made sure here that I've got grid lock turned on again and the attach tool turned off. Now I need to make sure that these are all going to be blue because I want to be able to cut out the box in acrylic. So let's now do that. Now if I select these boxes, which I've grouped together, everything looks good. But now if I come to align color and make that blue to cut, everything turns blue. So now it's actually going to cut out the text as well back out of the acrylic, which obviously we don't want. So I'm going to go back to my trusty contouring tool, which is this tool over here. It's tool B6, and I'm going to click on this, and I want to have a contour spacing of 0 because I want to contour perfectly around the box with a graphical contour in a color blue. And here's the thing, I want to click just wide of the line. Now it's where the finger is pointing that we click. Okay, so I want to click wide of the line there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if I clicked on the inside of the box there, it will work as well, but always make sure that you're actually clicking where you want to contour, in this case the outside. In some CAD file scenarios, that is really mission critical. Okay, so that's got my acrylic display case cover sorted. Let's just grab all of that now. I think I'm going to grab all of that actually. I'm going to group that together. Again, Control G. Now I'm going to grab all of that and I'm just going to bring that to the top left. The reason why I didn't grab it with the dimension lines, I could have done, but it's just that when we send this to the laser cutter, we won't want to laser engrave the dimension lines. So I'm going to leave those off the selection when I pick it up just like that. Okay, next, I want to make my base. Okay, so if we just come back to the view right here, let's have a see what we've got. I've got to bear in mind here that I want the external pedestal profile to be 3 millimeters wider than my box, my acrylic box here. So if we have a look at this, this is 45 by 40. And I want to make sure that I add on 3 millimeters on all sides of this pedestal or base. If I have a look at Fusion 360 here, then I can see that all the, let's spin that round here and look at it from that view like that. Okay, here's my acrylic window, and I've got to make sure here that my walnut pedestal base is 3 millimeters wide on all dimensions. So let's just come back to 2D design. I'm going to come back to this drawing here, and I know that my pedestal base is 40 by 45. So what I want to do here is, I can do this in blue straight away, I think, is start on the grid, and I want to bring this out, and 45 plus 3 plus 3 is 51, and then 40 plus 3 plus 3 is 46. So this, I'm going to go to step lock here, and I'm looking down here at the relative grid reference. I want to bring this to 51 in the X by 46 in the Y. Now, if you look in the bottom left there, you can see my relative grid reference is now, he says, 51 by 46 is now that dimension. And again, to prove the point here, I'm going to get dimension lines. I'm going to turn the attach tool on to make my life nice and easy here. And I'm going to draw a dimension line right there of 46. A dimension line here, that should be 51. And that is the case. So that's going to allow me to make sure that I've got this base wider than the acrylic window. In fact, in here, let's go to inspect and measure, and I'm just going to measure that length there. That is 51. Hopefully you can just see that there. Can I bring that down? But you know what, I'm going to make it wireframe, visual style. Let's go to wireframe here with visible edges only. Okay, fair enough. Wireframe with hidden edges. There we go. Now we see everything. Okay, let's go back to that inspect tool, measure. What was that distance there again? That was 51. And the distance over here is, okay, now it's fading miserably. That is 46. Okay, so that is exactly what we want. Now I want to have the box that goes on the inside here. Okay, so let's just get our inspection tool here. Let's measure this. So I'm going from that point there to that point there. Is it going to let me? That point there to that point there. Please work. And that's not happy about it. So let me make that top window appear. And let's try that one again. Now, hopefully you've worked out here that this distance wants to be 6 millimeters less than the acrylic window. This is coming in at 39. So let's now come back to Techsoft and have a look at that. We know that the acrylic window here is 45, but this acrylic window has 3 millimeters of thickness to it. So it's 45 minus 3 on the left, minus 3 on the right. That's minus 6 in total. That is 39. Now, there's actually a nice, easy way that I can do this. I can come to the contour tool, and I'm going now to define a 6 millimeter contour spacing. That's because I want it to be 3 for the pedestal step and 3 for the acrylic window. And I'm now going to click on the inside edge of this box, and hopefully I have now got a box which is going to be, let's do this measurement here, which is, whoop, why isn't that snapping? That's snapping, there you go, which is going to be, what did we say it was going to be? 45 minus 6. This should be 39. And there it is. And this here is going to be 40 minus 6. This should be 34. And it is, thank goodness for that. So that is my second pedestal platform made. Now I've done that. Let me just pick this up. I don't want to get the, perhaps I'll do that again, as I'm going to shift deselect that pedestal piece. Come on to grid lock, turn off the snapping there, and I'm just going to bring that up here and just pop it right there. Okay, so this is going to be my upper little pedestal. How does this compare to my original Lego figurine model? 34 by 39. 34 by 39. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, I now want to have it so that in here there's going to be, if I actually, no, on here, I actually want to now have a little red line, which is going to engrave like a profile for where I want to position this. So what I'm actually going to do here is come back to my contouring tool, and I'm going to make a contour spacing here of 6.1. I'm going to do this in red. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this is going to be slightly in from the edge of this frame here. Now, if I bring that back in again, look, I've got grid lock snapping here, so it's super easy. If I bring this in, you'll notice that my blue line of my actual laser cut is slightly sticking further out. And so when I stick this down, it should just hide the laser engraving, which indicates where I want the pedestal to go. So that's my logic there. Have I got the blue line? Yes, I have. I can now pick that up and I can snap that back into there. Okay, here's the last thing to do. I need to bring in my Lego brick. Let's just bring this round again here. I've got this Lego brick here sitting in the middle of this pedestal. And perhaps here, I'm just going to come back to visual style. Let's go with shaded with visible edges. Okay, so there's my Lego brick. Now this Lego brick is slap bang in the middle of this design. But I'm actually thinking to myself that maybe because my little Lego figurine here has got his arm sticking out, maybe I can just offset it back a little bit in the box. He's leaning back there as well. If he's got like some sort of rake in his hand or something, I need to have him pull back a little bit. So therefore, I'm just going to look at, first of all, putting the Lego brick in the middle and then stagger it back just a little. Okay, so let's come to Techsoft 2D. How am I going to find the center of this raised pedestal platform where I want the Lego brick to go in the middle? Well, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to find the center by drawing diagonal lines. So let's just, again, turn off grid lock and step lock, turn on the attach tool, and I'm going to make sure here that my color is black because these are going to be construction lines. In fact, you know what? Let's do them in gray. I'm going to do a line across there, and I'm going to do a line across there. And then now what I want to do is find the middle here. So what I'm going to do is come to the delete part tool, and I'm going to delete one of those lines. And I've had to do that because I actually want to snap onto this point right here. And if I just draw like with a line here, with step lock turned on, you'll notice it doesn't actually snap onto that point. So that's why we have a problem. Okay, so that's found the midpoint of this area. Of course, what I could do here is I could come to step lock and I could put the step spacing here to 0.5. And as soon as I do that, now, look, I can snap right onto that point there. But I'm not. You could do that. I'm not. I'm going to keep that as 1 millimeter. Okay, so now I want to have the cutout for the Lego brick. So I'm just going to come back here to my other figurine model. I'm going to come in down here and I can see that my Lego brick wants to be, every single Lego pin is 8 millimeters in size. So because I want to have here a 2-pin block, to hold my Lego man. This is going to be 16 in length and 8 in width. Okay, so let's come back to my CAD file here. Now I want to have step lock on and attach tool turned off. I'm going to now draw in blue from the grid. I'm going to draw it here. This is going to be, and again, I'm looking down here where it says relative grid reference in the bottom left-hand corner. This is going to be 16 by 8. That is exactly the size I want it to be. And again, just to prove this, let's just put some dimension lines on here. So this is 8. Notice how because those lines were so close together, I extend the dimension line out to the side. And this here is going to be 16. Okay, I'm not going to bother putting on the little location of the pins. I just want to cut this out. Okay, so here comes the magic. I think I might just, in fact, you know, I'm going to keep the dimension lines there. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, so with this duplicated now, I'm going to turn off grid lock and step lock. I'm going to turn the attach tool. And when I pick this up, look, the move icon is in the middle of the box. When I click on that, I now get my little attached square. And as long as that the center of the intersect of these lines is in that square, it's going to snap into position. That is now perfectly in position. Okay, now what I want to do is just offset this slightly up. Now what I could do here is I could select this and I could just move this up a number of millimeters here using the step lock to get that into position. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a transformation tool, and I'm going to go here to, let me have a look here. I'm going to go to draw a rectangular array of selected objects. Am I going to do that? You know what? No, I'm going to try the move. Okay. No. No, I'm going to do the rectangular array. Let's do that. Let's do that, yes. Okay, so I want to have one column, vertical column. I'm going to go with 3 rows, and I'm going to, no, let's go with 5 rows. And I'm going to have the X spacing to the left and right to 0, and I'm going to have the Y spacing here up and down to 1 millimeter going up. I'm going to click on OK, and look what I get there. I get these series of blocks. Now this is a wee bit strange, but what this is now going to let me do is decide where I want these to be located. So was this a sensible thing to do? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. You know what? My thinking here was that I can sort of like delete these and then kind of like get a feeling for where it should be and kind of decide that's the one I want. Actually, you know what? I'm going to undo all of that. I'm going to take it back to here and I'm going to go with my first plan. I'm just going to select it and I'm just going to move it with step lock turned on here. I'm going to move it back here and I don't know. I'm going to move it back 3 millimeters. I'm going to move it back to there. And I'm thinking now that that's going to give my Lego man to be facing forwards. It's going to make sure that he's got space to hold his ray gun in front of him. Okay, so that I think is my CAD file ready to go. There's just one last thing I need to do here. I grouped all these together and I'm going to do the same over here because at the moment if I select these things, they're separate objects and I can move them out of position. So I'm going to click and drag, not with the dimension lines, just around this. I'm going to group that together, Control G. I don't need that Lego brick over there. I'm going to group this together, group G as Control G as well. I'm going to make sure gridlock's turned on. And here's the very, very last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to move all these things off the drawing area with gridlock turned on. Okay, so this is my repository in effect for what I want. And then now I can simply select and shift select in this case what I really want. Oh, sorry, I don't want to move them. Control C copy, Control V paste. Fantastic. And now this is actually what I want to laser cut in the maple wood. So I've got my original graphics out here to the side, and then this is what I want. So I've got my display case here, which is going to be in clear acrylic, and I've got my wooden or my walnut veneered MDF pedestal in 2 parts down here. Okay, that is, I think that's been quite a long video, but I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do one more video in which I'm going to have a look at making my space theme background, and I'm going to be adding it into my display case back section here, so it laser engraves. I shall do that in an additional video.